Imagine opening your mailbox in January, the way you've done every year since you paid off your home. Same envelope, same county seal, same nervous feeling in your stomach. You already know what's inside, the bill that keeps coming even after the mortgage ended. Property taxes. The payment you make just to keep what you already own. But this time something's different. You tear it open, scan the page, and for the first time since you were 30 years old, the line that used to make your heart sink says something you never thought you'd see. Amount due, $0. Not reduced. Not late fee waived, 0. Nothing. Paid in full because the state finally decided you've paid enough. For millions of retirees watching their savings shrink while taxes climb, that isn't just a nice perk, it's the difference between staying in their home and being slowly priced out of it. And in 2026, 7 states in America are quietly proving that retirement doesn't have to come with a tax bill strapped to it. This is the story of how a handful of states, Alabama, Alaska, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, South Dakota, and Wyoming, have flipped the script on aging. While some parts of the country keep raising assessments and pretending seniors can magically afford it, these places said no. They said if you've worked, if you've paid off your home, if you're living on Social Security, a pension, or a fixed income, the government shouldn't be the reason you lose your house. And what makes it even more interesting is that these aren't all the same type of states. We're not just talking about tropical retirement havens or tiny low-population towns. We're talking hot, humid Alabama front porches, icy Alaskan mountains, Florida beaches, Georgia suburbs, Mississippi small towns, wide open South Dakota prairie, and the big sky quiet of Wyoming. Different climates, different cultures, same idea: seniors deserve to keep more of their money. Let's start where the video you heard began, Alabama. People underestimate Alabama because they still picture it as a slow southern state where nothing changes. But for retirees, Alabama is quietly one of the smartest tax decisions you can make. In 2026, just like now, once you hit 65 in Alabama, the state stops charging you property tax on your primary residence. That's not a gimmick, that's written into how the state treats seniors. And in a lot of counties, if your income is on the lower side, the local governments have raised their part too. That means the state part, gone. County part, gone. City part, gone. You stay in your home without watching your cost of living creep up every single year. Now pair that with the fact that Alabama doesn't tax Social Security or pensions, and has one of the lowest average property tax rates in the entire country, roughly 0.4%, and it stops being just a nice retirement spot and starts looking like a retirement strategy. Picture a $250,000 home in Alabama. In a high-tax state you could be paying $7,000 or $8,000 a year just to keep it. In Alabama, you might pay $1,000, or, if you're 65 and meet the local rules, nothing at all. That's not a discount. That's thousands of dollars a year back into your life. That's prescriptions, that's utilities, that's a trip to see the grandkids, that's breathing room. And the state actually makes that lifestyle possible because the overall cost of living is low. Groceries, housing, utilities, even healthcare in places like Birmingham and Huntsville are reasonable. The median home price sits in the low $200,000s. You can actually buy a place and not feel like you need to go back to work just to pay the taxes on it. Sure, Alabama has downsides, humid summers, some rural areas with spotty internet or limited public transport, but the trade is simple: live a little slower, pay a lot less. For a retiree on a fixed income, less is priceless. Now jump from the hot south to the cold north, Alaska. It sounds funny to call Alaska a retirement-friendly place. Most people think of it as rugged, isolated, and expensive, but for seniors, Alaska has one of the most powerful property tax protections in the country, and it's confirmed through 2026. If you're 65 or older, or disabled, Alaska exempts the first $150,000 of your home's value from property taxes. For a lot of modest homes, that wipes out the entire tax bill. In a state where groceries, heating, and travel can be high, the government is basically saying, we know some things are expensive, so here's where we make it fair. On top of that, Alaskans get the permanent fund dividend, that annual payout from oil revenue, which isn't massive wealth, but when you're not paying property taxes, it can tip the scales toward real stability. What makes Alaska appealing to a certain kind of retiree is that it offers something money can't always buy: quiet, space, and control over your life. You get clean air, mountain views, no state income tax, and property you can actually afford to keep. Healthcare is better than people think, too, especially around Anchorage. The catch? Winters are long, dark, and cold. Groceries get pricey. You have to plan. But that's the pattern with these 7 states, none of them claim to be perfect. They just decided retirees shouldn't be taxed out of their homes. And that alone sets them apart from states where the property tax bill rises every year just because your neighborhood got hotter on Zillow. Then there's the obvious one, Florida. Everyone knows Florida is where people go to retire, but most people don't know just how aggressive Florida has become about protecting seniors from rising property taxes. Everyone gets the standard homestead exemption, but once you hit 65, certain counties offer an additional senior exemption, sometimes $50,000, sometimes $75,000, and in some places, if your income is below a set amount, they just wipe the bill completely. That means retirees in parts of Sarasota, Pinellas, and Palm Beach aren't just sitting in the sun, they're sitting in the sun without property taxes. Combine that with the fact that Florida has no state income tax, so your Social Security, your pension, your 401k withdrawals, all untaxed at the state level, and you start to understand why people sell a house in New Jersey or Illinois and run straight to Florida. It's not just the weather. It's because $3,000 to $8,000 a year in property taxes magically becomes $0 to $1,500. That's real money. Of course, Florida has its own storm clouds, homeowners insurance is getting brutal, hurricanes are real, and coastal areas can be expensive. But Florida has something no spreadsheet can measure: it makes retirement feel like retirement. You can go outside year-round. There's world-class healthcare, giant retiree communities, and a state government that knows its economy depends on keeping older residents happy. And they've built the tax system to do exactly that. Georgia is the interesting middle ground. It's not as famous as Florida for retirement, but in 2026 Georgia is expanding senior-friendly tax policies in a big way. A lot of Georgia counties already cut out school taxes for people over 65, and school taxes are often the biggest chunk of the bill. The problem was some seniors made just a little too much to qualify. So the state is raising the income thresholds, meaning more people can get those exemptions. Think about that: your house keeps going up in value, but your tax bill doesn't follow it anymore. That's how you let people age in place. That's how you stop forcing 75-year-olds to sell the home they've lived in for 40 years just because the neighborhood got popular. Georgia is also attractive because the cost of living is still below the national average, and you can choose your lifestyle. Want city amenities and top hospitals? Atlanta. Want coastal charm? Savannah. Want college town energy but smaller bills? Athens. Median home prices are reasonable, especially compared to northern and coastal states. The drawback? Growth brings traffic, insurance hikes, and rural gaps in healthcare. But again, the theme holds: Georgia recognized that property taxes were jumping faster than seniors' incomes, so it stepped in. Mississippi might be the simplest of all 7. While other states make you fill out forms, prove income, or reapply every year, Mississippi just says, you live here, it's your primary residence, we won't tax the first $75,000 of its value. That alone pushes a lot of modest homes into no property tax territory. Add in the fact that Mississippi's cost of living is among the lowest in America and you start to see the appeal. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to game the system. You don't have to keep proving you're poor enough to deserve help. You just live in your house and keep your money. Yes, some rural healthcare and infrastructure still need work, but for someone who wants a slow, affordable, front porch retirement, Mississippi might actually make the most sense. Then there's South Dakota, which takes a slightly different approach. Instead of just deleting the bill, South Dakota freezes it. If you're 65 or older or disabled, you can lock your property tax at the current amount so it doesn't go up even if your home value doubles. And if your income is low enough, you can defer paying it all until the house is sold or you pass on. That's a compassionate way to do taxation. The state still gets its revenue eventually, but the senior doesn't get crushed right now when cash flow is tight. On top of that, South Dakota has no income tax, low overall tax burden, and affordable cities like Sioux Falls and Rapid City. The trade-off? Cold winters and a more rural lifestyle. But for someone who values stability over excitement, it works. Finally, Wyoming, the state most people forget about until they start looking at tax charts. Wyoming has no state income tax, low sales taxes, modest housing costs, and some of the lowest property taxes in the country, around 0.57% on average. For 2026, it's even expanding its property tax rebate program for seniors using money from its energy revenues. That means more seniors, not just the lowest income ones, will be able to get a big chunk, sometimes all, of their property tax bill sent right back to them. Imagine that, the state charges you, then basically refunds you because it can afford to. Add in clean air, low crime, open space, and decent medical centers in places like Cheyenne, and Wyoming starts looking like an underrated retirement fortress. Yes, winters are real. Yes, you need to be okay with distance. But your money will last longer there than in 20 other states without question. When you zoom out, the pattern is hard to ignore. These 7 states aren't all the same politically, geographically, or culturally. But they all ask the same question: why are we taxing seniors out of their homes? Property taxes make sense when you're raising kids, using schools, building businesses, and growing income. They make a lot less sense when you're 72, on Social Security, and the only reason your bill keeps rising is because someone down the street sold their house for way more than you paid. These states chose to protect seniors instead of punishing them for staying put. And that's the real takeaway for anyone planning retirement in the next few years: where you live matters more than ever. You can retire with the same amount of money in 2 different states and live 2 completely different lives. In a high-tax state, $2,000 to $8,000 of your yearly budget is gone before you even buy groceries. In Alabama, Mississippi, parts of Florida, or with a freeze in South Dakota, that same money stays in your pocket. That might be the difference between a car that keeps breaking down and one you can actually maintain. Between skipping meds and filling every prescription. Between staying in your home and having to sell it. It's not dramatic to say property taxes can make or break retirement. So as 2026 approaches and more of these policies kick in or expand, this is the move smart retirees are making. They're checking their state's senior homestead exemptions. They're calling the county tax assessor. They're asking, what happens to my property taxes when I turn 65? They're looking at neighboring states and saying, wait, Alabama doesn't tax this at all. Why am I still paying? Some will relocate. Some will just finally file for the exemption they've been eligible for but never claimed. Some will decide that weather matters more than taxes, or that family is more important than savings, and that's fine too. The point is, you have options. You don't have to just accept a bigger bill every year because that's how it's always been. Because the truth is, retirement in America doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't have to be a math problem where you sit at the kitchen table with your spouse and wonder which bill to pay first. In these 7 states, retirement looks like how it was always described: slower mornings, familiar neighborhoods, the house you love, and the knowledge that the government isn't going to take it away from you through the back door of taxation. And if 7 states can do it by 2026, it's fair to ask, why can't more?